Between. Well, this is a fun fight. Guess what? Today, we're going to find out whether the Tuono is any good as a commuter bike. Okay, we're going to go through the normal daily grind to work, from home to the office, and we're going to see whether this bad boy can carve up peak hour. Let's go. Check it. Alright, well, one of the real world considerations straight off the bat is how do you get these things, move them around your garage. This bike in particular has copped some flack for having a crap turning circle. Well, it does, but I don't think it's a game changer. As you can see, I've got a bit of building going on, and my driveway is somewhat consumed by building materials, so I have a particularly tricky scenario to navigate, and how's that? Not too bad. Easy as you like. Does the job. And it's light. Manoeuvrable. So that's the first test on our commute. Passed. And the question is, what sort of commuter bike is this? We all know it's a powerful, fun machine with capabilities in the twisties. How's she go in the daily grind? Might start by defining what I mean by commute, and that is the daily ride from my home office to my city office, which for me is only about 15 kilometres, or depends if I take the long way. If I take the long way, it's 24 kilometres, which I often do, particularly on days like today. Beautiful spring day. For others, the commute will mean different things. I'm sure there are people out there who commute for hours, but there's a lot of motorcyclists who will have a less than 1 hour commute to work, and that's really what this review is about. It doesn't have auto-cancelling indicators, which for commuting is a bit of a bummer. Nor does it have heated grips, which of course you can fix. I've got heated gloves actually, the Ixon brand heated gloves. They're awesome. I bought those because this bike didn't have heated grips, and the ones that I had my dealer fit on this bike initially didn't fit the bike. I had to take them off, and I couldn't be faffed, so I just got heated gloves instead. So there's a couple of things that a commuter bike, to get a 10 out of 10, would need, this bike doesn't have. But there's not really too many negatives, as I have found in the last 5 or 6 weeks commuting on this bike. Low speed manners, which you need on a commuter bike, look at that, no problem. No problem at all. We can be seen and we can be heard, which are also two vital characteristics of a commuter bike. Although the road presence of this particular vehicle probably not as present as, say, my Honda Africa Twin, which is a large bike with, you know, multi-colour scheme and bright lights. This is probably slightly more compact in its size, and therefore probably doesn't have quite the presence, although it is a striking looking machine and get a lot of second looks from motorcyclists and caged pilots alike. So what's the filtering like? Actually really good. I rate it better than my sports bike. These mirrors and bars are actually pretty narrower than you think. The bike's narrower than you think. Even though the fuel tank gives you plenty of girth to grip, the actual machine is reasonably narrow. So the low speed manners are fine, despite what I read in here, they're fine for this purpose. Low speed handling and tip in is delightful. Good visibility left and right, which actually might sound like a weird one, but certain riding positions on certain bikes are harder to turn and see your peripheral. This one's a piece of cake, mainly due to the riding position, I suspect. Yeah, and as I said before, can be heard. You know, we've got the exhaust valve permanently open, the servo motor mod, and so I can be heard. One of the great features about riding this bike, and there was a small example of it in my lengthy review, full review of this bike, my real world review of this bike, is the braking and accelerating forces are so instantaneous on this machine that you can use both of those devices as a safety tool. I'm constantly accelerating out of blind spots, out of trouble, decelerating the same, braking the same, and this bike seems to have a tremendous connection between the rider and the machine. When you make an input, this thing responds instantaneously. There's no lag, which makes it a great machine for commuting. Now the other sort of component or byproduct of that is this bike's just incredibly fun. There's an R35 Nissan GTR. I've owned a few of those. Raced them as well up at Bathurst and Phillip Island. Yeah, so the braking and engine character of this bike makes it fun. The thing about commuting for me is, why waste a commute on a boring bike? If you're going to be on two wheels, you want to be able to have fun, even on a commute. And just little hits of the accelerator like that, you know, and flicking the bike around, it's just super fun. And so you can make these otherwise dreary commutes great fun. So, you know, we're travelling second gear, 37 k's an hour, there's no lag, there's no chug, it's smooth, I can hold a speed, I'm going uphill over bumpy roads, the suspension's superb, soaking up all the bumps. I'm in A2, I think, suspension mode. Yeah, I've got, you know, moderate suspension, moderate throttle settings, and they all work perfectly for a day like today. But, you know, second gear pretty much cuts it at the speed right the way through. The engine's doing it easy, and at first using the quick shifter. I don't even use the clutch for this style of commuting. So for those people who reckon it's clunky and only wants to go fast, well, cop this. This is great. This is great fun. Love it. This is a wonderful commuter bike. Fuel economy's renowned to be a bit average. I don't have a problem. Actually, I've got to fill up, so we'll see. Get a bit of a sense for its filling up capabilities in just a moment. Which is a bit of a bonus for this commute experience. That's really not a problem. My Triumph Rocket 3R, oh my goodness, when I used to fill that thing, I used to dread filling that up, because you could never fill it up without spilling gas all over the tank and the engine headers. And I've seen videos of those bikes blowing up at service stations. Speed camera here, and it used to freak me out. I used to get anxious about filling that thing up. It's one of the reasons I sold it, actually. But this bike's a piece of cake to fill up, no problem. No spillage, you'll see that in a sec. But here we are on a beautiful spring morning in the commute, doing it easy. And I have to say, you know, a combination of the practical capability of this bike, the great visibility, the smoothness of this V4 engine, particularly at these speeds, and the fun factor, all combined to make this the bike that when I've got a commute, I've got a garage full of bikes, this is the one I pick more often than not. It's addictive, you just want to get on it and stay on it. The commute's too short. Sometimes I take a long way around just to spend more time on this bad boy. One problem I did have with this bike in my first month of riding, I come to the lights like this, and it may do it now, I don't know, it's a cool day, it's only 15 degrees Celsius. The bike would start heating up, and the engine would just start labouring, and eventually the bike would turn off. Fixed that problem by changing the coolant mixture to 70-30 water coolant. It was an incorrect ratio out of the factory, but it still does labour a bit, and you may see that in a sec depending on how long we're at this light. It starts going boop, 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 and you just got to twist the throttle to get it back on track, but it does heat up really quickly. Here you go, just start to hear it now. Not quite. We were into that light long enough, but give it another probably 30 seconds or 20 seconds and she would have done it. Anyway, let's see the filler upper capabilities. Well, this is a fun bike. I love it, and this is just a commute. Fun everywhere, fun to be had everywhere. Here we go, let's fill her up. Okay, let's get this SW Motec bag, which is a wonderful bag for commuting. It's a must fit. You got to get the special ring from SW Motec to fit it. It's a wonderful thing. Here we go. Grab some 98. Takes 98, this bad boy in Australia. Look at that, no spillage. Straight into the hole. Look at this baby, slides straight back on. Sort of. There you go. Easy peasy. This Ducati Multistrada, I've got an eye on one of those at the moment. Considering trading in or selling my Honda Africa Twin for one of those. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I haven't decided. I'm doing my research and will report back. Okay, so here we go, back to the commute. So we filled her up. A pretty painless experience, and of course this is real world. This is real world. But again, you know, the overwhelming consideration for commuting, I think, is this low speed manners, and I just I still don't understand the experience that certain people have had with this, you know, rubbishing it as a low speed bike. It's clearly excellent. It's clearly excellent, and I'm just cruising along. The engine is so smooth, buttery smooth. This V4, people say it comes into its own when it's at, you know, high speed. Well, sure it does, but it's also coming into its own right now, whatever coming into its own means. But that's what it's doing. It's smooth as you like. You know, second gear with a quick shifter there, not the slightest jolt. Beautiful. The riding position, you know, great for this style of riding. I've ridden this in the wet as well on this commute, and you know, for reasonably aggressive tyres, these super courses, I find them excellent in the wet, as well as obviously in conditions like this. Braking power, excellent. I've done a lot of night riding, commuting, plenty of light. So yeah, this thing handles all conditions. I think one of the other attributes that makes it a great commuter bike is just its overall size. It's not a big bike, you know. It's on the small side. Now braking, here we go. Beautiful braking power. Very progressive. This is a nice bike, this Ducati 1260. Got all the gear on it. Yeah. I'm thinking about buying one of those. I'm thinking about getting one of those.
30 litres.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I get about 600 k's, so it's awesome.
I get 150. If I'm lucky. But I'm looking at buying one.
Hey?
I'm looking at buying a Multistrada.
Oh, get the V4, the DL twin.
Yeah, okay.
The V4's smooth as.
Yep.
I like this, a bit of a rumble under your arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear the engine there labouring. That's what I was talking about earlier. Gotta get it. Oh, we're stopped. Actually stalled. So there you go. That's the only downside to this bike. If you let it go too long, it'll overheat and it'll shut. Well, the engine will just shut down. I need to get that looked at. I thought I'd fix that. That is an issue, and that is probably the only issue, really. But that is the only downside. And I imagine because we're in cool conditions, I imagine in the summer that could become a little bit of an issue. So I will watch that. I will report back. As I said, you know, this bike's fun factor is only a twist of the throttle away. You know, what a great way to travel, you know, every day on the way to work, being able to do this on a beautiful machine like this. So is the Tuono a good commuter bike? Yeah, obviously, with that one caveat being the overheating issue. I didn't actually think it was going to turn off then. I'm surprised it did, because it's really not that hot. The other day when it did it, it was in real stop-start traffic for some time. As we cross the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge. The Opera House is on our left, which will come into view soon. Oh, who said commutes can't be fun? Here she is, the Sydney Opera House in all her glory on a beautiful spring morning. The Manly Ferry coming in. As we go through Circular Quay, the Central Business District to our right. Oh yes, the nice looking KTM. Well, that's it. That's my commute. It's a reasonably short one. Quite an interesting, fun one at times, with the option of the long route. That was the short route today. But is the Tuono a commuter bike? It is a great commuter bike, with the one caveat being that heating issue, which clearly needs to be sorted, and I'm sure it will.